How it all began. Wow, what a life. Looking across the pictures and videos in our family's collection, you see the life of Gordon and Carol Ramberg. They capture only a fragment of their lives. You see them from when they were young children, all the way until just a few days ago. Several of these pics capture moments in a time when life was simple. Some picture them as teenagers. We commonly referred to one of the pics of Mom as a young girl ready to play ball, and Dad as a brute rock-moving young man chasing after a beautiful girl. Several years ago, I prompted Mom to answer some questions about their lives. These next few pages do little justice to what this all means, but do capture a few significant spaces in time. The William and Gertrude McCoy family moved from 2302 Chevrolet Avenue in Flint to 3045 Linden Road when Carol was 17. Carol had 4 sisters, Eileen, Vivienne, Patricia, and Diane, with one brother, William. Carol had a boyfriend at the time she left Flint. We will leave that name behind for what will be said to be the rest of the story. Gordon was the son of Conrad and Minnie Ramberg of 4257 Miller Road. Gordon had 2 brothers, Conrad Jr. and Ronald. He had one sister by the name of Juanita. Soon after the McCoy family landed on Linden Road, Carol acquired a girlfriend by the name of Doris Nelson. Doris lived on Miller Road, just around the corner, and 2 doors down from Gordon. The Nelsons had an apple orchard adjoining the McCoys' orchard on Linden Road. Mom would walk through the orchard to hang out with her new friend. It was only convenient the Nelson yard was in the path of one of the young lads who lived a few doors down. Carol and Doris would spend their days in the yard, entertaining themselves with some of the means of that day. Yard games such as horseshoes, football, badminton, croquet, and baseball were popular at the time. They could be seen playing baseball on the Nelson lot regularly, with other friends or just the 2 of them. One day a young lad from down the street passed, catching Carol's eye. The young men of the neighborhood could often be caught hanging at the local corner station. Gordon lived a few doors down from the station and from Doris. This would put him on a path to Gordon and Carol's destiny. It may be said to have been the best thing that happened since the McCoy family found their way to Linden Road. From that day forward, Gordon and Carol would start what could be said to be a relationship that would stand the test of time. Gordon had just started a job at Buick when he turned 18. The month was April. Gordon was walking, having lost his license as a result of a car accident, which is another story in itself. They would both later come to the realization that had he not lost his license, they may have never met. It was truly God's doing. After that infamous day, Gordon would walk down to see Carol nearly every day, as she was always at the Nelson house. He started walking her home through the orchards. Mom told me it was on the 4th day he kissed her. She said after Dad kissed her, she went into the house with butterflies in her tummy. He told her later he was a little leery of kissing her because she was Catholic. Funny, Mom thought. Mom had broken off with her boyfriend prior to that time. Once Dad got his license back, he bought a car, and they would officially start dating. One might think, having known Gordon and Carol, that their life was full of romance. When I asked Mom about the romance, she hesitated. Maybe it was a sign of the times. Maybe it was because there were no picture shows to incite romantic tendencies. Who knows? Mom said Dad didn't know what romance was. She would try to encourage him to be romantic. Her encouraging hints for romantic gestures would float away like smoke, or would just fall to the ground. He just wasn't a guy after romantic notions. He once told her he had no feelings of guilt about not being a romantic. When asked how she felt about that, she expressed, well, Dad was just Dad. She told me one time he brought her a roll of toilet paper and said, "There, don't say I never brought you anything." Another time, he brought her a pair of scissors, she said. One might be surprised the relationship lasted 52 days, much less 52 years. Again, different times. Funny, there is no recollection in my years of Dad ever doing anything special for Mom. At least nothing that would jump to my mind, qualifying as romantic. At the same time, it was always clear how he felt about Mom. Memories are etched in my mind of her meeting him at the door almost every night after work. Romance or not, their love was clearly understood for each other. I asked her to describe how Dad proposed. Her explanation pretty much fits the thoughts above. She said he didn't exactly propose. One day they were just sitting in the car talking. Mom said she mentioned something about whenever I get married. He told her not to talk like that, as it made him think she was going to marry someone else. Not long after, they decided to get married. The courtship started in April of 1948. Mom and Dad were married on May 28, 1949. Wedding guests would consist of relatives, friends, and family. The reception was at the McCoy house in the orchard. Much simpler times. Truly, it was a marriage made in heaven. Mom and Dad were married until Dad died in February of 2001. Gordon Ramberg and Carol McCoy were married at Sacred Heart Church in Flint, Michigan, by Father Blasco. Father Blasco was Mom's favorite priest at the time. Mom and Dad's honeymoon consisted of a trip to Bob Lowe Boat on the Detroit River. Mom's cousin, Bobby, and his girlfriend went along. When I think of the fact they spent their honeymoon with a family member, it's of no surprise. So much of our time growing up was spent around the Ramberg and McCoy families, holiday, summer picnics, or just gatherings for no apparent reason. Great memories. Mom and Dad didn't do too many special things, like extravagant vacations and the like, as money was tight in those early years. She said he would take her out after every baby. That was nice, she said. She told me she always enjoyed being with Dad. I know Dad loved being with Mom. I believe that's why we, as their children, knew Mom and Dad. Were happy. There was never a doubt in our minds. They moved into an apartment on Fifth Avenue. For the first year, they were married. The apartment was on Fifth Avenue near St. Michael's Church. Mom said the first Sunday after moving in, she got up and walked to church. On her return, Dad asked where she went. When she told him, he told her never to go again without him. She said that was very much a surprise for her, but that it made her extremely happy. When she became pregnant with Kathy, they moved in with her parents. Dad didn't want her to climb stairs. After Kathy was born, she got a job at St. Joseph's Hospital. Living with her parents would allow Grandma McCoy to care for Kathy. Their second child, Gordy, would bring the move into the infamous chicken coop behind Grandma and Grandpa Ramberg's house. Few of the younger family members would ever know what the chicken coop was. There are a few pics in the collection that depict this little home. It served as living quarters for a few of the Ramberg family members starting out. When our Uncle Connie and Aunt May were married, Grandpa Ramberg and Uncle Connie repurposed what was the chicken coop behind Grandpa and Grandma's house. Connie and May would live there for several years while they were starting a home just a few miles up the road. Their oldest two girls, Linda and Marlene, would have been just a few years old when they moved on. Anne was born during the time when Gordon and Carol lived in the chicken coop. By then, Dad was working 3 jobs. He would work at the corner gas station on the weekends. Dad would also work evenings and some weekends at the J.C. Penney's store. This was all while he was working at the Buick. Simpler times indeed. By 1954, when Anne was born, they were making plans to build a house on Maple Avenue. They had saved $2,000 and received a loan from the Hogues in Swartz Creek. The house was finished in April of 1955. Mom was pregnant with Rick. Mom stated how happy they were to move into their home on Maple Avenue, emphasizing how those were such happy times, and not just because of their new home. The two of them were just always happy being together. They had nice times there on Maple Road, spending time with friends and family, and spending time with their neighbors. While getting to know every neighbor in this growing young neighborhood, Dad always worked a lot. When he would get laid off from Buick, he would work with Pearl Case, laying blocks. He was never without a job. By the time Nancy was born in 1961, he had become a foreman at the Buick, as it was always referred to. Cheryl was born in 1962, and Teresa would come along in 1963. Somewhere during these years, the couple would acquire the property on Linden Road, beginning the planning phase for their next home. The house was started on Linden Road in 1962. They would move in shortly after Teresa was born. Dad wasn't home much back then. Buick and building a house kept him very busy. He worked the afternoon shift at Buick, and the mornings would find him working on the new house. Our house wasn't quite finished when we moved in. They would complete the home over the next couple of years. Some of my own personal best memories were going to the house on Linden Road to help Dad. I'm not sure how much help a 6-year-old could have been, but it created many fond memories for myself. Mom stated, those were very trying years as Dad was working long hours. He eventually went on the first shift, as the second shift was very wearing on her. Many stories are told of nights alone until wee hours of the night and 6 imaginative young children. Many nights, Dad would spend the first 20 minutes clearing out the bed of all the children, whose imagination would run wild. Mom was not much for staying home alone, ever, much less living with young children, who could find all kinds of creeping, crawling things in the middle of the night. Moving into the house on Linden Road introduced a whole new cast of neighbors. Again, they would stay busy throughout these next years, with family, friends, and neighbors. It would be a few years after Michelle and David would come along. On weekends, you could often find them playing cards with the Buttons, the Allens, and the Morgans. Mom said these were truly good times, and were enjoyed by all. I tried hard over the past few years to get Mom to tell me more about the life and times behind the scenes of Gordon and Carol Ramberg. As one of their children, it might seem obvious for me to know or to have heard it all. I told her I was sure that anything she remembered would likely spark a memory of my own. Over the past several years, I've been inclined to pen some of the stories of our family and the life and times of Gordon and Carol Ramberg. These writings have served me and others with a bit of comedy on occasion, but more than anything, they have aroused memories in my mind, which I will cherish forever. As Mom stated, time seems to have gone so fast. I have so many memories, and went on to tell me how she enjoyed all her years with her children. Though there had been some very stressful times, there were many more enjoyable times. She told me she just wanted us to know she loves all of us, and she wouldn't change a thing. She has had a long life. God has been good. She said, I've been very blessed. Her last statement she made when asked, I pray you all have a blessed life. Stay happy. Shortly before Dad passed, we received a card with a quote that is stuck in my mind. The gist of the statement said, our character is built on all the people whom we have ever known or have ever come into contact with. We as people are emotionally, mentally, and even physically affected by others around us. I'm sure all of us see something on a regular basis that brings a particular memory to mind. Whether it be a happy memory or a sad memory, we find ourselves smiling or laughing often when someone or something special crosses our path or our mind. A friend that played a special part in our life crosses our thoughts, and a fond memory of a special event is right there in front of us. Often it takes over our thinking for hours or days after. You've likely passed a building or a landmark before, and some special event in your life comes to mind. People can have a profound effect on our lives. Our mom, my parents, had a profound effect on my life. I believe more often than not, parents have a positive effect on children's lives. My parents were married for nearly 52 years when Dad passed. What an impact this has had on their children and their grandchildren. The gatherings around the table for our family have been innumerable. You can only imagine the memories created from such events. It's said when a loved one passes, they never really leave us. It is these memories and influences which cause us to believe this. I am grateful to be granted such a privilege as to have shared this man's and this woman's lives with them, and most of all, cherish the memories and time I was blessed to have with them. While this may not appear to be something directly from Mom, I am inclined to end with this. We all acquire characteristics from our parents. Some good, some maybe not so good. I have tried to collect some characteristics which could be said were passed down from Gordon and Carol Ramberg to their children. Many of these same characteristics can be seen as well in their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Kathy, giving and generous. Gordy, protective with a fantastic memory. Anne, organized and fun-loving. Nancy, spirited and strong-willed. Cheryl, caring and kind-hearted. Teresa, warm-hearted and kind-spirited. Michelle, kind, considerate, and giving. David, resourceful, ambitious, and giving. I'm sorry I'm not done yet. Those who know our family know it doesn't end easy or fast. I tried to collect a few memories from each of the children of Gordon and Carol Ramberg. Some contributed, some didn't, but all would likely have some of the same memories. As simple as they may sound, they are those memories which make a family a family. When one passes, we often say in our consoling way, we will carry them in our hearts and minds forever. It's the simplest of memories of our loved ones that carry us through bad times and good times. It's the simple memories that stick. Make simple memories with your loved ones. Share an ice cream cone with a child or a grandchild, or even a neighbor. Share something special with a friend. I've often told my children, most memories can be related back to food. An ice cream cone with grandma, a donut with grandpa, stopping at NW with mom. Share a meal with someone you love. You will be surprised what memories can be created and locked in their minds forever. Below are a few of the memories shared by family members. Michelle Grosser, I remember picking up fresh eggs from Bacon's after Mass on Sundays. Dad could sniff out a farm fresh egg. Over the years, I can think of no less than a half-dozen fresh egg suppliers. Potato chip and pop night on Saturdays. This practice goes back as far as my mind can travel. While this memory comes from one of the younger siblings, it went on for years. Watching miniseries on TV annually with Mom, like Gone with the Wind, The North and South, Roots, and the Thornbirds. These were shown only once a year, and Mom and I awaited them every time they were on. There was no way to take such movies for granted in those days, since they weren't easily accessible. Visiting Aunt Diane and Uncle Clay in Durand regularly. Always fun. Visiting family was common in our family. It is no surprise to most of us that Aunt Diane would ultimately spend the last years with our mother. Of all the family members we visited, Aunt Diane, Pat, and Candy were likely visited the most. Weeding rows of green beans since we were raised with a work ethic. Mom and Dad would plant huge gardens every year. In the early days, there was no rototiller to keep the weeds out. Hence the many memories we all share of pulling weeds in the garden. This memory would also extend itself into the canning phase of all the vegetables. Dad's AM radio blasting in the wee morning hours. Dad was an early riser. 9, 10, and 12-hour days were the norm. This meant a 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. wake-up alarm. I'm thinking snooze buttons had yet to have been invented. There is not a sibling who does not share the memory of Dad's alarm blaring for what would seemingly be hours before he got up. Others' memories, going to NW with Mom in Flint, going to see Santa with Mom and Dad as a child, Andy's Pizza, later switching to Sicily's Pizza, staying up late Saturday night to watch Boris Karloff, people visiting like Gert Button, Uncle Billy, Bobby, and Joanne, late-night talks with Mom. Dinner every night, pies, roasts, barbecue chicken and liver. Dad standing, making milk. Day-old bread bakery. Going school shopping downtown. Mom making Christmas cookies. Mom taking care of me when I was sick. Every Christmas morning. Sitting in front of the bathroom register. Climbing in bed with Mom and Dad. Going to the store with Dad. Working on the house with Dad. Long drives on Sunday afternoons. Most all remember spending time chasing frogs and other critters in the creek. The many cats and dogs that met their fate on Linden Road. The Greeks don't write obituaries. They only ask one question. Did they have passion? Jeremy Piven, Serendipity, 2001. Gordon and Carol Ramberg were not Greek, but Mom and Dad both definitely had passion. Author Rick Ramberg, contributors, Ramberg siblings.